Hey, y'all, I'm Shane Sams. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. I appreciate my listeners so much. You are the reason that I interview the world's top experts, authors, and entrepreneurs so that I can bring you access to amazing people that you may not be able to talk to, you may not be able to connect with on your own. And I have real, authentic conversations with them about business and life. Super excited today to welcome Eric Nordhoff to the program. Eric Nordhoff and me have a lot in common. We've kind of been on each other's radar for years, but we just connected at a conference called Podcast Movement. And our main connection is we have both been guests on the Smart Passive Income podcast, hosted by the amazing Pat Flynn. Eric has an incredible journey as an online entrepreneur. Him and his wife, Krissy, have built an amazing business that has evolved from one of the biggest Walking Dead podcasts on the planet to an amazing business where they have over 6,000 paying customers in the network marketing and the e-commerce space. And they also have an incredible online mastermind and membership program for aspiring songwriters over at quiettimemusic.com. Eric and I got to hang out for a little while and have an amazing conversation about a lot of different topics. In this episode, you're going to learn about the power of podcasting and how it can change your business, change your life, change your family's future. We're going to talk a lot about working with our spouse. As many of you know, my business partner is my amazing wife, Jocelyn. Eric and his wife, Krissy, are also business partners. So we're going to talk about that dynamic, how you can work with your partner, how you can stay out of each other's lane, and how you can maximize both of your talents to create an incredible business and an incredible life. And we're also going to talk about growing up as business owners. You know, it's one thing to build a business, it's one thing to make money, but how do you grow up? How do you build team? How do you build systems? How do you manage all the success in your business and your life? We're going to talk a lot about that today. And we're going to talk about how that can all come together to create a 500-year vision for you and your business, for you and your mission, you and your purpose, so that you can build something that will outlast you and impact people for generations. I had such a fun time talking with my friend, Eric Nordhoff. I know that you're going to get a lot out of this episode today. So grab a notebook and a pen wherever you are listening. Take some notes, pour yourself a cup of coffee or maybe a mason jar of sweet tea. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of The Shane Sams Show. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Eric, what's happening, man?
Shane,
how you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm so happy to be on this podcast with you. This is so fun.
It is always good when some SPI alumni get on the horn together, baby. Got the Pat Flynn connection in the house. I told Pat I'm going to give him a shout out every time I can for the rest of my life. So I got to give Pat Flynn a shout out.
Hey, and I got to give you a shout out. Congratulations. Episode 500. You are the man that got to interview Pat. So I'm in the Shane Sams alumni. That's what I want to be in.
I was when he texted me and he was like, "Hey, I got a question for you." And of course, when Pat asks you something, you're like, "Whatever you want, dude, let's go." You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Yeah, man, what do you need?" And he said that they had a team meeting and they wanted to turn it around and let someone interview Pat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they unanimously voted for me to do it.
Wow.
And he reached out to me and he was like, "Dude, we want you to do this. We think you'd be the perfect host." And I was dumbfounded. I mean, I was looking down at that text like, is this really happening right now? Like, you know, and it's Pat. He's a normal guy, but still, like, what a great honor and a privilege. Like, that dude could have got anyone. People would have probably paid him to do that. And he asked me, and I will just be eternally grateful for something.
Well, like that's what I love about Pat, too. I've always loved about him is his sincerity. Yeah. He's genuine. You know, I'm sure there's bad things about him, like all of us, but
I know a few of them. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I got a few stories about old Pat.
I mean, sometimes I feel like we're treating him, as holier than us or whatever. But
yeah.
But he is such a good guy, and I want to be like him. I remember wanting to be like him, and he was so encouraging to me. Whether he didn't know it, but I was just a listener to his podcast, and he didn't know me from anybody, but his podcast episodes inspired and encouraged me, and I know they did you as well. Yeah,
100%, man. And like, I think that like I know this from you too, like just us talking and knowing about you and your background. Like, I think what Pat has inspired me more than anything on is just to be authentic. Like, Like that dude is, for everybody that's ever heard of Pat Flynn and the Smart Passive Income podcast, like we've known him, we've talked to him, like I've eaten dinner with him, I've met his family, like the dude's just the same. He's the same every time you see him. And like I strive for that authenticity in our brand. Like I want to every day as I record a podcast with you, as I do something for my community or whatever, just be authentic and be truthful and be honest. I was reading a post about this earlier, not a post, but someone was posting on Facebook and they were talking about like all these money goals and all these things. And it was just like, it was a clear attempt to draw attention, not to a version of success someone told them was success, but they were claiming for their own. And I'm like, man, isn't it better to just write your own definition and be authentic and go get that? And that's what Pat does. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what he does. But that's one of the things I really like about you too, Shane, just kind of watching you. And I was so happy to run into you at Podcast Movement and get to just see you for a little bit. And as I've been listening to your podcast and as it continues to grow and develop, you are just yourself. And it's so freeing. And it's a reminder for me just to be who I am. It might not strike a chord with everybody, but I'm just going to be me. You're just going to be you. Pat's being who he is. And that's winning. If you can be free and fully as real as you can be in your life and make a living at it, I don't think there's any greater
game over, baby. Checkmate, right? Yeah. If you get a little time freedom and some extra cash in there, you're good. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Trifecta. So
like it's hard not to wear masks online, man. You're an online person. You know this. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. The mask creeps up your soul and tries to crawl on your face like Venom from the comic books or something.
Yeah.
Right? I'll tell myself like, I spoke at FinCon last week, right?
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Yep. So I went to FinCon, I spoke, had a great crowd. And when you speak, you always have people wanting to talk to you afterwards because you're on stage. And, I dig that environment. I mean, I'm an expert at what I talk about, which is memberships. And like, I fully embrace that. And I was going through some things and there was this one guy that I felt myself put on I have the wisdom and the experience mask here. You know what I felt myself put it on and I said something to that dude that was probably true, but I felt like it was through a mask. It wasn't
just
like
that little super Shane. Super Shane.
That's right, man. And like, I tortured myself. I went out and had a couple cigars with some buddies of mine that night. And I tortured myself about that. I was like, dang, man, that wasn't me, dude. That wasn't like, that was experienced wise on stage, Shane. That wasn't the dude that you can talk to about anything. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, no, I can relate to you 100%.
Bro.
I just hosted a conference here in Franklin with about 110 songwriters that my wife and I have been, my wife mostly has been mentoring. And yeah, I found myself on day 2 kind of getting that, oh, wow, this is amazing. We're making an impact. But I don't think either of us can fully go there because you already know when you're putting that mask on. And even though it's on for a few seconds or a few minutes, very quickly, either you're going to figure it out yourself that you put a mask on,
or your wife's going to figure it out.
Put it on, right?
Or you're going to run it by your wife and she's going to be like, you are, that was not how.
No, humility is marriage. That's for sure.
That's exactly right. I am so grateful that I have a wife who has no qualms. She always tells me, she goes, a lot of people are intimidated by you. She goes, but I want you to always know you will never scare me. That's what she says to me all the time. Let's talk about the music stuff, man. That's a good segue. But like, right now, you're doing the music stuff online, but let's talk about like what led to that. Tell me how you got into this particular space. Tell me about your website, but like, what were you doing right before it too? That kind of led you down this path.
Well, the thing I really want to talk about, which I think you can relate to, is how I started getting into podcasting. Actually, after listening to enough episodes of Smart Passive Income and Internet Business Mastery, my friend and I took an opportunity, my neighbor and I, to start a podcast about a show that we loved together called The Walking Dead. And we just became fans of the show. It was just a blast. He was monitoring on Twitter all of the insider behind the scenes stuff that was going on the set. and he heard that they were going to do a big shoot one day, November 16th, 2012. And he said, do you want to go down there and like go meet everybody and see if we can see what we can find out and see? And so we went down there, down to Atlanta, Sonoy, Georgia, and we experienced an amazing day, like the perfect day. We met do you watch the show? I don't know if you ever have watched.
Oh yeah. I stopped. I tell you what, I stopped watching it. Like I stopped watching for a while, and I was more like reading the highlights of it because like there was like I was on like season 3 or 4. Yeah, and I was like, man, this show is making me sad. This is dark. Like they just kill everybody.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right.
But I do know what's going on, and I keep up with it from afar, just at hand's reach, so I don't go crazy. Right?
Yeah.
When they shot that deer at the end of season like 2 or
yes.
dude. That was, I was like, happiness, look at the deer, bam, and it shot the kid.
They got you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, man, they got me. Dude.
They got you. They got me too. And I'm a jumper. So James and I would watch the show together, and I'd be like jumping, and he would just laugh at me.
Jocelyn still watches it though. She's got
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah,
okay.
She's still in.
Okay. So long story short, we went and we had an amazing day. We drove back. We met every actor that we wanted to meet. We met all the crew, and we were just on a high. We had smiles on our faces, and on our road trip back, I said, listen, I've always wanted to start a podcast. He always wanted to start a podcast. So the next day we sat in my basement and we recorded a fan podcast. It was really bad. It was on a really bad microphone, but we just did it. And I figured out how to upload it. I used Pat Flynn's guide to the original.
Sir.
Right. Okay.
That's right. I know exactly the original blog post, how to get your podcast online.
Dude,
man.
It was perfect. So, so followed everything step by step, started recording. And within 6 episodes, we started getting real fans listening. And we had our first guest on the show. And it was an actor. It was the main director from the series. And then we had actors or celebrities or like key crew people on the podcast every episode for like 25 episodes. And we became like the number 2 podcast for television and news on Apple, on iTunes at the time.
Holy smokes. That's insane, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. And my partner, I didn't realize my partner was such a type A type of guy. And he's like a driver, and he ended up said, why don't we do a meetup, like a fan meetup? So we did a fan meetup. We had 100 people at that. And then it was just so fun to start to meet these people that were real listeners, that were real fans, and we all could just celebrate something together.
And they cared about your opinion of the show. Like that's even more amazing when someone's like, someone does care about what I have to say in the world. Like the power of podcasting.
Yeah, it was a new experience for me. So I can kind of experience a little bit of what like Pat must feel doing his podcast, because you just meet people that know your voice and get to know you that way. And so James and I had a good banter, and we did one other meetup, but then he said, let's do a convention or a small convention of like 1,000 people.
I'm thinking about that meme of Will Ferrell. Well, this escalated quickly.
Yes.
we go from podcast in basement on Bad Mike to Nordhoff Con. Let's go. Right, like
Lord. So man. It turned into Walker Stalker Con, which was our podcast, the Walker Stalkers. And we had 11,000 people in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, at this 3-day Comic-Con, basically. Jeez. And every major actor from the show and other shows, the horror genre, which I don't even watch horror movies. They scare me. But we still had this event.
That's a baby with the bathwater right there, son. You're going to do The Walking Dead. You're getting all the other shows.
I'm getting it all. Yep.
Right.
Yep. So, dude, it was a crazy ride. And I don't even remember your question, but
no, I was asking what you did before.
Yeah.
Like
so
the quiet time music and all that stuff.
Right.
Like how did you get into podcasting and podcasting is the natural bridge to the online space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're kind of halfway online, halfway not when you upload your podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So the Walker Stalkers just became a huge thing. We actually invited Pat to the San Francisco event. Do
you still do it? Do you still do that podcast?
No, I ended up for personal reasons. Actually, I'll tell you, my wife hated the show and she hated the content. So we're Christians, we're
Sure.
believers, and she just didn't like it, and she thought it was evil. And I didn't quite go that far with it, but I definitely, you even said it yourself, it was dark.
Yeah.
It's a dark show. And you can get really caught up in it.
It was affecting my mood. That's how, but you know what? Hey, that's actually not just that's not an indictment of the show. That's a compliment on the quality of the acting and directing and writing, because they were doing exactly. I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic world. It's not a happy place, and like they were not sugarcoating that. You know what I'm saying? And I could totally see why a lot of people would make that call of, I just don't think I should be putting this in my brain, right? Or at least at this level. You know, maybe I can keep up with what's happening, but I can't watch this happen every single week, right?
Yeah.
So Krissy pulls you out of it, right? She's trying to pull you out.
Krissy said, "Listen, you can keep doing this, but that's fine. But I'm leaving." She literally, it wasn't funny. It was really a really sad time in our life. We laugh at it now. That was 6 years ago. So I sold my half because at this point it was a podcast. It was conventions. It was massive. Ended up being like worth quite a bit of many millions of dollars.
Sure.
I sold before it was worth that. I sold my half back to James. He continued it. It's no longer going on now, but it was a great ride. And I learned a ton about connecting and building community and connecting with people. And at the same time, simultaneously, I started another podcast for our network marketing business, for our essential oils doTERRA business that we had, that my wife found a lot of healing from. So we built that together, and that was a real passive income stream, but it ended up being we built a large team. We have about 7,000 customers in our organization now. So, and that's all very passive now. I don't do a lot to build that, but those two things combined with my wife's songwriting, and I don't know, you've done a lot with your wife. I feel a lot of kinship with you, Shane, even though we don't know each other that well.
Sure.
But in everything I've done, I've really always tried to partner with Krissy.
Yeah. I find that can be, me and Jocelyn we're sitting out on the balcony last night talking about this. Like, you know, Jocelyn and I, we started out as school teachers. Like, she was a librarian, I was a history teacher. We worked in different schools, but we were both kind of in the same industry, so we could kind of speak the same language at night. Like, the same problems, administrators, parents, whatever, kids. Yeah. And, so we were always kind of doing the same thing there. And then we started our business together, and we were kind of doing everything together. We had 2 different websites when we started, but then Flipped Lifestyle just pushed. Now Shane and Jocelyn are the brand, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's weird, like when you push yourselves together like that, you want everything to be together, but at the same time, it can blur boundaries between your personal life and your business life so much that it becomes this weird thing to navigate. Not a bad thing to navigate, just a weird thing to navigate, because you go straight from the boardroom to the bedroom, right? Like, it's like you know what I'm saying? It's like you're dealing with all these heavy business things that might be a lot of money at stake, a lot of partnerships at stake, and you and your wife have to come to an agreement, right, on that, which is never easy. No. And then at the same time, your kid gets out of hand, and you're like, well, how do we punish this? How do we reward this? How do we deal with this? That has differences of opinion. And then you've got other things like your normal personal life, what contractor you're going to hire. Then you've got your relationship, right? So like, there is this weird thing. It's a blessing and a yin yang of a curse a little bit to be that intertwined. Do you all find that? Or is it like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no doubt. I mean, we both come at it with different strengths. So my wife is more right brain creative. She comes up with all these creative ideas. She's always writing songs or cooking or nurturing in some way or another. And I love to take those ideas she has and monetize them and make money with them and build a community around it. And, so she wrote this book called Writing Worship Songs. So she's a Dove Award winning songwriter. She has a song up for the Doves. Again, she was a Grammy-nominated for her song. So she's really in the music industry, in the Christian music industry. And she writes a lot, like 300 songs a year. So
she wrote a book called Writing Worship, how to write worship songs. And so I helped her build a mentorship around that. And now we have courses and mentorships and a membership. So yeah, we find it really, really difficult to make time to really be just Krissy and Eric.
Or even when you make time, it's like, how do you switch that switch? Like, how do you, because you know how it is. Like last night we were talking about something and we talked really well for about 45 minutes. And then the last thing that happened in the business day came up.
Yeah.
And then it just completely derailed the sunset on the balcony plan kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, got the fire lit, you're looking out, the sun's going down. As soon as it goes down,
you're trying to be romantic.
Yeah, the romance went to no man's real quick. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah.
But that's it. So is this like the main thing you focus on right now? Is like the music stuff with her and then the network marketing stuff, or what do you do with and did the music stuff, was this all your encouragement for her to launch this thing, or was that her idea, like she wanted to step into this entrepreneurial path, or was there like a catalyst for this, like we've got to help other songwriters or something?
Well, I think she has a definite heart. For 10 years, she's been mentoring female songwriters in town because she didn't have a mentor herself until she heard God say to her, be what you need. I want you to be what you need. Even though you don't have a mentor, you be what you need. And that all of the rest of that will be added on to you. So she started mentoring young songwriters 10 years ago. And this is sort of a culmination of 10 years of investment in people while she was writing songs and developing her own career. So I've always been alongside her. I'm probably the only one that's listened to all 2,000 songs that she's ever written, and I've been with her for 20 years. It started with me. I worked in Christian music as an executive for 10 years before I stepped out on my own and got the entrepreneurial bug. So she's not an entrepreneur by nature, but she is a creative workhorse. Yeah. And she knows how to work hard. Farm girl, grew up in Michigan on the farm. And I also work really hard, but I'm much more on the technology side, the online marketing space. So we work together in that way very well, in that I kind of stay in my lane, she stays in her lane.
That's the key, man.
Yeah.
That's the key, working with your spouse, dude. You got to do that, Like we about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I kind of got this feeling like, I was doing more CEO stuff, but I wasn't really liking it. You know what I'm saying? And Jocelyn was definitely doing the COO stuff, operations, making everything work. But we both kind of there was enough crossover where conflict was happening. And I realized I wrote down on a piece of paper on a mastermind trip, I was like, what makes us money? Right.
Yep.
And, the first thing I wrote down is, when I talk, we make money. Like when I podcast, when I speak, when I do webinars, when I write emails, like when I talk, we make money. And the second thing I wrote down was, when I stay out of Jocelyn's way, we make money. When I get involved in anything on the back end of the business, it's usually a dumpster fire. It's just a big, just giant spaghetti on the wall mess. Because my brain does not work in a linear path. It does not work in systems, right? And I find this with couples. It doesn't matter if it's the guy or the girl, but one is the creative and the vision, and one is the executor, can get things done. And man, people always ask me, like, how do you work with your spouse? You stay out of each other's way. You got to figure out which hat you can put on. And I know a couple of people too are disasters because they're both creatives and they love each other so much, but they just can't keep the momentum. Because they don't have an integrator or an executor that can go out there and like do the things.
I think I almost feel like I need a third person in our relationship.
That's Jesus, son. That's Jesus, Eric. But Jesus sometimes don't. He's a silent voter sometimes, and he won't tell you which side he's on.
Yeah, he needs to be. He needs to talk more, and I need to shut up more, for sure.
Yeah.
So you ask a really good question. I think we're kind of going through something right now where we sort of hit this crossroads where I'm doing a lot of the executing of things. She's coming up with some great ideas, but I'm probably running ahead of her too quickly.
Interesting.
So I'm always the one that is the accelerator. The funny thing is, in that Walker Stalker relationship, I was the brakes and he was the accelerator. But in this relationship with my wife, she's the brakes and I'm the accelerator.
Interesting.
So I have to not only stay in my lane, because my lane is more of the executor behind the scenes, but I'm also I love to speak and I love to be up front and I love to host and co-host and MC and do that sort of stuff. So my problem is I like to do it all. I can do it all I'm not great at anything, but I'm good at a lot of things.
Which is a curse in some ways. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to let stuff go in that instance. Like when you want to do that, you know?
Yeah, that's where I have to say, okay, I have to make choices. I have to get good at making decisions as to what is going to, like you said, what's making us money.
Yeah.
What is the income producing activity that I need to be doing that's going to help us, our family? Because first and foremost, I do feel a strong burden to provide for my family, and not only financially, but provide to be a source of peace, to be a leader of bringing peace into our home. And if I'm running too fast, that's not bringing peace to my wife. She gets stressed out seeing me run so hard, and she feels like she needs to run that hard with me.
Yep.
And that doesn't work. We need to pace ourselves. And
that goes back to the partnership thing. Like last night, so yesterday, like it's funny you say that, because like being calm, right? For your, not just for your team, for your spouse, for everybody, but especially if you work with your spouse. Like yesterday, Jocelyn, my little girl, came down crying a couple of days ago. She's been going to we took her, she's a really good cheerleader, like a really good all-star cheerleader, like elite level, like high level.
You must be spending 10. A lot of money on this cheerleading.
Oh,
I've heard.
My Lord. She has so much money invested in her legs for flipping. But like, seriously, awesome. But she's been going to this amazing gym. It's up in Lexington. The guy that owns it is a 23-time national champion collegiate coach.
Wow.
I mean, the greatest coach in the history of the sport by far, not even close. Like, it's unarguable. He is the best coach. And then every person that works at his gym has a world or national title. Every coach.
Wow.
So this is like the best gym you could ever go to. Love the gym, straight up. But at the same time, it's pretty far away. It's an hour and a half. We got to drive on a couple days a week back there and back. And, but it's worth it. We do stuff and we work for ourselves. So whatever, we can leave at 3:00. Who cares? Right. But like at the same time, her old gym, amazing gym, full of love. They do an amazing, great job at this smaller area that we live in. And Anna Jo just missed her friends. Straight up. That was the decision. She came down crying and was like, I really miss my friends. I miss these coaches that I worked with for 6 years, and there was a real family type bond that drew her back. And she was like, I want to go back to the old gym. Well, of course, I'm immediately like, wow, wish you'd have told me that before we spent $10,000 this summer at this other place. And like, we signed a contract where we still owe $3,000. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of evaluated this risk. I knew that was going to happen. I kind of had it back in my mind. We might end up doing this. Right. And Jocelyn was kind of, all in, but we had to do what made Anna Jo the happiest. But Jocelyn was so freaked out that we were going to have to, one, the sunk cost of all the time and money, two, that we were still, even though we weren't going to be at this gym, going to have to pay a year's worth of tuition for it because we agreed to that, I'm like macro money in our relationship, and Jocelyn's micro. Like, no bills will get paid if I have the checkbook, right? But I promise you, we will always have cash flow and profits.
Right.
So I'm doing the big picture, she's doing the little picture. It's a great little setup, but she was totally worried about that, And because as the cash flow guy, sometimes it is like, oh, that's going to kill cash flow. What are we doing here? Like, I got to call that stuff out. That can be conflict driven, right? But she basically, like, I just stayed calm. I took a breath and I was like, it's going to be okay. Figure it out. Kind of knew this was going to happen. But Jocelyn actually texted me back and was like, your calmness kept me calm. She's like, I was panicking. I didn't know how you were going to react. It was freaking me out. And, because not only do we have to pay the old gym, we got to still pay the new gym, all the other fees, which is another $10,000. Right. So it's like, you're trying to figure this out. But it was that calmness in the relationship. And I think both sides have to have that if you're going to work together, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, does your wife stay calm like that too? Like, does she level you out?
Yeah, actually this morning she leveled me out because we just started our version of a membership yesterday. And it's freaking me out how much time because I'm the one in the details. I'm the detail person. But yet I also see the bigger picture. So yes, she did it for me this morning. She's just like, Eric, you just, she just sort of, she's a strategy is her thing. So she has a great sense of how things should work, the order in which they should work. So she said, why don't you just do this for 3 months? Be really honest with the few members that you have, that this is a test, and we're going to see how this works. And then, we'll evaluate. If we need to, we'll refund everybody the money. It's not a big deal. We're not dependent on this one thing. I'm more the time investment in it. I just don't want.
So my next question was going to be what are some of the challenges that you guys, I want to come back to the network marketing thing because that fascinates me too. I want to see how y'all built that.
Okay.
Like right here, as you guys endeavor, it's kind of like segments. Like to me, there's like offline marketing. There's like a product-based e-commerce network marketing kind of bucket. Then there's online business, which is like content, courses, memberships, mentorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where you are right now.
That's that bucket. Yep.
That bucket right there. Like, where do you, what's the challenges in the time right now with your membership? And like, what do you foresee is a challenge right now? And like, how are you kind of addressing that? Because that is the number one thing you got to figure out when you're leading mass groups or communities is time. You got to protect your time and energy because so many people want it when you're a leader of a community.
Right. Yeah. And they all want Krissy. So they're happy. They're sort of satisfied with me, but they all want to talk to Krissy because she's the pro writer. Right.
Yep,
and so these are up and coming songwriters that are writing songs for the church or writing Christian music. And they're at various different levels, usually beginner to intermediate level writers, meaning they just haven't written enough songs. So this community, I am committed, which Cliff Ravenscraft is actually a big inspiration for me also.
Love Cliff.
In the way
Great
he runs.
Dude.
Yeah. And he's pretty close to you in Kentucky, I guess. But
I text him. I just texted him like 2-3 days ago. He was actually the first person after I started Flip Lifestyle. I was completely overwhelmed because so many people joined so fast. Yeah. And I text Cliff. I was like, Cliff, we're both in Kentucky. I just want to reach out to you. You don't know me from Adam, but whatever. I love your podcast and all that stuff. Bro, that dude poured so much love into me and did so much advice for me in that first 2-3 months. Mm-hmm. I just love that dude. He is absolutely incredible, man. But go back.
He is. He's awesome. So his mastermind is just 2 mastermind groups a week. And it's completely controlled environment. And that's what I've decided to structure. There's not much more to it. We had a membership for a year, and it had all kinds of extra things because we felt like we were not, like it wasn't valuable enough. And I think really what it was we didn't feel like we were worth it unless we provided a million things to them.
Yes. That's a common problem with memberships and even courses. People think people don't understand that what you can do in 100 courses, the person that's consuming your stuff needs the first hour. And that's the next 6 months of their life because they don't know how to do these things.
Right. Yeah? So we're keeping it really, really simple. I am rewarding them for writing more songs. Our meetings are an hour and a half. Everybody gets a chance to talk about what they're struggling with, whether it be with writing songs or releasing songs, because that's a whole nother aspect. And I feel like I can speak into that. Yeah. But I'm not going to be the guru that knows it all. I'm going to facilitate conversation among members.
100%.
I'm great at leading small groups. So that's what this is. And it can scale that way. If we need to, we'll set up a couple more sessions. But right now, it's just 2 meetings a week with various different songwriters, because we have writers in the UK and in Europe who need to meet during the day, our time. And then we have people here in the US that will meet in the evenings. Yeah. And that's all it is. That's what we're doing. And I'm tracking their songs. They're turning in songs how much do they pay for that? How much do they pay a month? $100 a month.
Oh yeah.
Or $990 a year.
Yeah, you have to raise that eventually, or
you think so?
It.
Yeah.
Well, I think Oh yeah, for sure. Because if there's 10 people in a group, that's $1,000 a month. That's fine. Okay. But with that much hands-on attention, you want that room to be all in. You want that room to be super vetted, super special. That's the difference in group coaching / mastermind level memberships versus Like all of our memberships are one to scale. Like I want to give 100,000 people an opportunity. Right. Yeah, and then they can all interact with each other. We've got ways to scale that. That's pretty easy with we need one community manager per 1,000 at the membership level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This right here is definitely like, imagine if everyone in that room was paying $500 a month. You'd have some good songwriters in there that are probably making some money, and they would be crushing the next level. Like it's probably like the people who are making money off their songs, but they're not at the next level, winning Dove Awards and Grammys.
Right.
But they're talented enough to do that. And that means even when Krissy's not in the room, those other people are just ballers, and they're going to help each other like elevate themselves.
Right.
But that scales, bro. I mean, all you need is a facilitator per 10. Like if you get a facilitator per 10, like you just figure out the cut. I got a spreadsheet I can give you too to show you how to.
I would love it
to show you how to split that up. I can throw in the show notes here for anybody listening too. But that'll scale pretty fast. Also too, I got a buddy named Joe Nicoletti. You got to hear this.
Okay.
You need to go back and listen to his interview on this podcast.
All right.
These interviews always devolve into some kind of mastermind talk, by the way. So don't worry about that. We'll be back to our regular scheduled program here in a few seconds.
Come back in 5 minutes if you'd like.
Actually, just stick around. We might make you some money if you hang out here, people.
Absolutely.
So what we did, we were actually in Franklin, Tennessee. We were down there at that coffee shop. What's that coffee shop across the square from Merida's?
It's the Frothy Monkey.
Frothy Monkey, baby. We were sitting at the Frothy Monkey, and we were sitting outside, and we had this big notebook out. We were trying to like develop this membership for Joe, and he was like, and we looked down, and it looked like we were like designing nuclear fission. It was just so complicated and just dumb. And so I just threw it all away, and I got a coffee coaster, a napkin, and I laid it down. And I said, "All right, bro, we're going to design your membership on this napkin. If it doesn't fit on this napkin, we're not going to unfold it. There you go, right there. You held up a coaster right there, baby. Start writing." And I said, "We got to do this." And I said, he serves writers, so novelists, fiction writers, nonfiction writers, which is akin to songwriters, right?
Absolutely.
Same process. And I said, "What's their number one thing?" And he goes, "Word count." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, they're all alone. They don't have any accountability, and they're just not hitting their word count. They're not writing that song a week. They're not doing the reps, right? And it's easy for them to bail out and go do something else instead of write their song." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. What if?" I said, "Well, what fixes that?" And he said, "Well, writers retreats. We've done some writers retreats, man, and people come in and they'll write half a book in a weekend. Right? Because they're all together. They're not even talking. They're just sitting around writing." And I said, "Wait a minute. What if you just did a weekly co-working session? You go to Amazon, you order a giant hourglass with sand in it, and you get on and you go, all right, guys, everybody post in the chat your word count. I want to see your word count." And then you flip the hourglass over and you play music. And at the end of it, you come back, the hourglass runs out, and you go, "Hey guys, how many words did you write?" Everybody celebrates. They're motivated. And he was like, "Let's do it." And he says, "I got like 600 people paying him $40 a month, man, doing this."
Dude, that's crazy.
It's crazy. I was like, if that works, that's the greatest membership of all time we've ever invented. And he blew it up, man. And he's built his whole, I'll send you a link to his website. It's unchainedwriter.com if anybody wants to look at it. Here's what he does now. So everyone on his team, he's got like 3 or 4 people on his team. They just run these writing sessions. They have like 4 or 5 a week. They have people that go to the replays. Like if they miss the live, they're watching the video of the replay for an hour and writing with a video of someone listening to music.
Hey man, whatever you need.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it's so dumb, but like on his sales page, it counts down to the next meeting. So there's always like a 24-hour counter on his sales page. And and it's just bonkers, man. But like, dude, the results, it's insanity. Like when you put like-minded people in a room, you don't have to, they need structure, facilitation, organization. They don't even need leadership or you coming down from on high, sharing wisdom.
They don't need a lot more knowledge. They just need to do the reps, like you said.
That's right. So your job in memberships like this is to facilitate the reps. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm putting it on my coaster.
Yeah, man.
When I'm done.
Yeah. Do you know Aaron Walker? Bro, you're in Franklin. He's in.
I don't know Aaron Walker. No.
Aaron Walker. He's an amazing guy. He's one of my mentor. I consider him a mentor. Great man. Very well connected. Knows everybody. I
need to hang out with more people. I really do.
Bro. I got to introduce you to some people in Franklin, man. I got a bunch of.
Introduce me to people in my hometown.
I will totally do that. I know everybody in your hometown, so I'll introduce you to him. But Aaron's awesome. The reason I bring him up here is because, like, the membership runs a model as a spectrum from what we do, which is like, let's go get 1,000, 2,000 people, put them in a big community, to what you do, which is 10-person mastermind pods. Right. And Aaron teaches that. Teaches that. He's got an awesome Christian mastermind called Iron Sharpens Iron.
Okay.
And it's got like 200 people in it, paying $600 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And he's facilitated it, and he's scaled it, and he's grown it. But
wow,
great dude. You ought to check that stuff out, man. And I'm telling you, you're going to imagine this too. The impact from this membership is, God, man, if you could get 100 songwriters to create 100 songs that get played in 10,000 churches.
That's the goal. That's funny that you said 10,000 churches. That's our heart, is to build songwriting cultures in 10,000 churches. Funny that you mentioned that.
How does impact drive you? Maybe we can blend this together with the 6,000 customers in the essential oils networking business. You said your wife, Krissy, really experienced a lot of healing, either from using these products or finding these products or building this company or whatever it is.
Right.
And then now you have an impact here. Like, how does impact drive your goals for these companies? Because you guys are so successful. I mean, you've blown up a huge podcast, you've built an amazing business, and you're doing this amazing, impactful online thing for songwriters. Like, what role does impact play in keeping you moving forward?
Well, impact is everything. I remember I hired a coach one time. And by the way, the best thing you can do for yourself is have a coach and have people, like you said, that are kind of in a mastermind with you, that are holding you accountable to higher things and connections. But impact is, and he said to me, I said, you want to be about impact, and that's your goal, is more impact, greater impact on the greater amount of people. So more impact, more people. And it's hard to measure that, really. Yeah. We just hosted our very first writing worship conference, and boy, that was impact in person. I got to see the impact, and it's real. It's like, these are real people you got to touch and hug and, just be with. And it was just really moving. So that motivates me. I need to connect with people in real life. Like I said, it's hard to measure, but if I feel like I've made an impact at the end of the day, when I lay down my head on the pillow, whether it be on my kids, on people that I work with or lead in the various groups we're in, I've done a good job. And sometimes I'm really hard on myself, thinking, I'm not making a difference. Yeah, it's hard. Especially online. Because you don't see everyone that succeeds. Yeah, but when you have a live event, you've had these, I know. Oh yeah, 100%. It's just it changes everything. Yeah. When I set of course, the first 5-6 years in your business, you're thinking numbers. You're thinking 6 figures, and then you're like, whoa, I think I can make 7 figures. Then you're like, wow, I think I can exit a business for $1 million. Like, like all these things, like these goals, like start stacking, but eventually it becomes like, am I not just like trying to chase the next zero? Like that's dumb. It's very empty, very empty, very, very empty. And like then when you do the flip, and when you focus on the mission and you focus on the impact, well then money takes a different context. Money now just makes the mission possible. Yeah. So we make the money so that the mission goes possible. And like it's funny quantifying your impact. Like to take the songwriter example. Like what if one person writes one song that gets played in 1,000 churches and someone gets saved during that song? Yeah. Like you can't measure that. You'll never know that. Like you have to just accept that all you're doing is as the coach, as the mentor, as the leader, your job is to create opportunity. That's your job. I'll tell you one thing that is driving us right now. There's a guy named Ray Hughes. If you've never listened to Ray Hughes, you need to listen to him. He is one of my absolute favorite on this topic of songwriting and creative people and Christianity. And he really speaks to some things in scripture that he has found, and he teaches on this subject. Anyway, we've gone on 2 trips with him, one to Ireland and Scotland, another one. And the guy knows the spiritual significance of different locations. And anyway, he's amazing. But he said, you don't just have a vision for today, you have a 500-year vision for what you want to do. If you can think about the generational impact that your decisions are making right now, and that's kind of the place we're in, is can we be thinking about we call them next. Can we be thinking about next? This is sort of the next person in line. Can we be thinking of the future of what we're doing now? So we're building a song barn right now, or we're raising money for a song barn that will be filled with 10 writers' rooms, that'll have a location for performing. And it's gonna, we just are seeing how this place and the community that's created here will form relationships, and who knows how many countless songs are going to be written at this location. It's just a place to dream, and that's, we need to be in that childlike place in our lives. And it's kind of it's funny. Like we try to be adults for like 30 years. And then as we get older, we want to be more like kids. And
right. I know. Like if only we could figure that out at 18. I just need to stay right here. If I could stay right here, I'd be good to go, man.
I was taught that dreaming was childish. And
I know, man. It's crazy. You've
got to be, that's a dream. We may not even ever see it because you have to think about it like 500 years from now.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
but also songs endure.
Yes, they do.
Like, one thing.
Look at hymns.
Hymns. We've been singing Amazing Grace since before I was born, son. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. And like at the same time, like one of our core missions is we want to help change families' futures, but we also want to help families leave an inheritance to their children's children. Right.
Yes.
And no one will know where that inheritance came from. You can't lock on to that. Yeah. Like no one will know it came from Flip Lifestyle. Nobody will know it came from Eric. Nobody know it came from Shane. Nobody knows where the spark came from, right? Down the road far enough. Right. We're all forgotten eventually, you know? Yep. But you can create something now that will outlast you a long, long time and make a big, huge impact on people. And dude, that Jody Moore, she's a member of our community. She's got an amazing membership, like 4,000 members. It's crazy. But she's an awesome lady. And she said this to me too, like, what freed her to make the most impact was, and you have to be careful of this. There's a little bit of, this can be misconstrued by people who just don't care about their customers. But like, once you focus totally on the opportunity and creating as much opportunity for as many people as possible in the best way possible with a plan that works. Like you guys have earned the right to think 500 years in the future. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Through your other business, through what you're doing now. Like you've earned the right to do that. And everybody out there just starting a business you're in the process of earning the right to think 500 years into the future. But Jody told me, she's like, I just have to completely disassociate myself from the outcome, not the celebration when people achieve the outcome. That's not what I'm talking about here. But my whole day, every minute, every day is creating opportunity that will let that 500-year vision come to pass, right? Like she didn't call it the 500-year vision, but it was to let that thing, that dream, that change families, that give them what they need.
The purpose, the greater purpose.
The greater purpose of why you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
That's when everything blew up for her. That's when she started making the most impact, right? Have you heard this deep impact movement? You ever heard about this?
Nope.
So there's this deep impact movement where people are telling people, you just need 5 people and they pay you $100,000 and that's who you serve forever and you make the deepest impact possible. Wow. No, Jesus didn't stop at the disciples. He sent them out, man. Like that's the mission, is to help everybody, man. Rising tide, lift all boats, man. And I'm just not about, I'm a wide impact, 500-year impact. Forget that deep impact.
Yeah, I love it. No, totally.
Yeah,
I love it.
So what's next for you guys other than the writing stuff? Like, I mean, you've got this amazing business over here for the other stuff. You got this, like, forget the 500-year stuff just for a second. Like right now, what's next? Just grow this membership and make it explode and as successful as the other stuff, or what?
Well, I think we need to grow up a little bit. We've been kind of toddlers as a business. We're only 2.5, 3 years into this journey. And I these next 3 months, I'm dedicating to pruning. There's a lot of grown weeds in and amongst our business, so to speak, so I'm just trying to rip out, I've identified all the areas that need pruning in our business. Like whether it be, we have our email automations with this service, and we have our courses and our mentorship over here with this service with Teachable. And we're just really trying to align everything and hone it. And perfect our systems a little bit better so that in 2022, we can really be ready for the next level of growth, which is going to come from more people joining the mentorship, which then will lead to more people after they graduate from the mentorship being invited into the writing club. Yeah. So we have better systems in place. Yeah. So
and
growth.
Then team is going to be a part of that, I'm sure, too, after you get the systems down, like team support, facilitators.
Yes. We have so many people who want to volunteer already, right? That are 100%. Champions. And I'm trying to nurture those relationships. Anyone who steps up and wants to volunteer, I'm like, yes, come over here and please do this. And they're just so happy to contribute. And they grow more when they teach and when they contribute. That's the secret.
You've been in this toddler phase, right? And then you go into the preteens where you're getting your systems, right? Then you go into your teenage years. That's where we just came out of, where we make so many mistakes in hiring and screw up, and like everything was just a disaster. And like now I feel like we're like kind of like about to turn into our 30s. That's like when you really grow up in life, people. Right. When you get to 30, like that's when other people view you as an adult. I know 18 and 21 are dates, but they don't count. Until you don't have a 20 something in front of your name, you're not grown up yet. But like I feel like we just crossed into that phase where we're like, wow, we found some really good team members. Wow, they're really pushing the ball forward, not just taking things off my plate. Yeah. And now we're just now looking over into the horizon of scaling our team. And that's scary. Like that's because to get what I want done, man, I know we're gonna need like 20 people next year. And I'm like, whoa, that's terrifying when I say it out loud, man, you know, but got to follow our boy Pat Flynn, man. We got to have a CEO. Got to do some stuff around here, you know.
Well, do what he did. Just buy a whole company out. And
we're not there yet. We're getting there. That's where I want to get to. Yeah. But
I'm looking forward to learning from you. How can I plug into everything you're doing? Are you sharing your journey about?
We talk about it here and on the podcast, and you know, I'm totally public. I'm actually going to start blogging a lot more over at ShaneSams.com. That's my personal brand site, because I want to do some more documenting style stuff. I think that's so helpful.
Yes.
And also just to talk out loud more. I got to talk out loud some more.
I'm a verbal processor myself.
Yeah, man. I got to say it. I got to type it. I got to put it out into the ether and then let my brain stew on what it heard.
Right. And it may not all be true. Like I may be like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that. But
exactly.
I think it's really important that you do. If you're a verbal processor, which I think most podcasters are, like you and I, we just have to do it.
You got to. And you got to be willing to say things that'll make you sound dumb. Here's one I've found lately too. I contradict myself all the time on I have 1,000 podcast episodes. So of course I'm going to contradict myself, but like I'm processing, I'm saying things, I'm taking in the current data in front of me and trying to figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to do that, and the more you can do that with other people that can hear you, the better, which is why the blog. What about you guys? For everybody listening out there, I know we're running out of time. Man, we could have talked for like 4 hours right here.
I know.
Where can everybody find out what you're doing and what you guys are doing online?
Well, yeah. So writingworship.co. We couldn't get the .com yet, but writingworship.co. If you're a songwriter, join our community. We're having a lot of fun there, and we love our people. And then ericnordhoff.com is my website. I do a mixture of a lot of things that are related to podcasting, but I also have a podcast called Courage Cast, where you can hear my ramblings about various different things related to online business, sales, marketing. I tell the whole story about how we built our network marketing business on one of the episodes there. I'll send you some links if you'd like.
Yeah, man. We'll put it in the show notes, and highly recommend that. I am doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on recommending people become podcasters. I used to kind of be like, hey, you can be a blogger, you can be a YouTuber or whatever. But like the more I see the fruit of podcasting in my life, the more I realize that everybody needs to be talking into one of these microphones every single day, man.
Absolutely.
Eric, man, thanks so much for sharing today, brother. Love you, buddy. Appreciate
you, man. Love you too. Thanks, Shane.
All right, guys, that wraps up my conversation with Eric Nordhoff. Man, what a great guy. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an honor to bring that conversation to you and to have you listening in as a part of that conversation. If you love the conversations that I have with the top leading experts, authors, and entrepreneurs on the planet every single episode of the Shane Sams Show, could you do me a big favor, man? Go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. I read every single one of those reviews. Those reviews help us get more listeners, help us get bigger and better guests, which of course is going to translate into more amazing conversations and value for you every single week when you tune in. Hey, if you really enjoyed this episode, man, grab that link, take it to social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you share stuff. Give it a share. Tell everybody what you love about the show. And hey, why not tell a friend? Tell another author. Tell another expert. Tell an entrepreneur. Tell an online business owner that you know that you have found the best podcast anywhere online for entrepreneurs and business owners. If you want to connect with me, easy way to do it, head over to shanesams.com. You can check out all the offerings and all the stuff that I have available over there. You can read my blog. You can listen to other episodes of the podcast. And hey, don't be a stranger. Reach out to me on Twitter at Shane_Sams. That's at Shane_Sams. Connect with me. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. That is my Twitter account, and I do check that personally. That's shanesams.com or on Twitter at Shane_Sams. All right, guys, before I go, I want to debut a new segment here on the Shane Sams Show. Just real quick at the end of each episode, I want to share with you something that I have been reading. And man, this year I have been reading nothing but philosophy. I'm talking Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. Man, I've been going old school with some ancient wisdom in 2021. And I thought it'd be fun, man, at the end of the Shane Sams Show, just to share a cool quote or something that I've been reading. I've been getting a lot of value out of this. I've read Marcus Aurelius Meditations 4 times this year. I just keep reading through it over and over again. And the more I read about these 2,000-year-old dead philosophers, the more I realize ain't nothing different. We're still going through the same things. We're still struggling with the same stuff. And man, I've been getting so much value out of this. I've decided I'm going to start blogging about some of the stuff I'm reading, and I'm going to start sharing a few quotes about some stuff here on the podcast as we wrap up each episode of the Shane Sams Show. Got a great quote today from the Letters of Seneca. I was in the coffee shop this morning. I read this and I thought, man, I want to share this with somebody. Somebody needs to hear this today. In letter 26, Seneca says, "Away with the world's opinion of you. It is always unsettled and divided." And man, we all need to hear that, man. You need to be chasing your dream. You need to be pursuing your goals. You need to be building your life. And the only way to do that is to stop worrying about the world's opinion of you. It is always unsettled. It is always divided. There's always going to be somebody that likes you and somebody that doesn't like you. You're going to be somebody's cup of tea and somebody else is going to throw you out of the cup. But if you can just focus on your goal, your passion, your dream, your vision of what you want your life to look like, it don't matter what anybody else thinks. It's all going to work out in the end. So I'm going to grab on to that wisdom from the ages this week when somebody writes a little hateful comment on some of my posts, or maybe somebody tells me my podcast ain't no good. I'm not worried about it because away with the world's opinion, man. I can't trust that anyway. All right, guys, that's all the time I have for this week for the Shane Sams Show. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, be consistent, be prolific, be relentless. Pick up your stone, cast it out upon the waters, and cause many ripples. I'll see you then.